Good afternoon. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. Welcome to our Westchester Weekly Update. This is Monday, March 6th, and we're happy to be here to cover with you some of the major issues that are happening in Westchester County. In a few minutes, we'll have our municipal speaker with us today. Our guest is the town supervisor of the town of Mamaroneck, Jane L. Cainini, a good friend for many years, and she is now serving as the leader of the town of Mamaroneck. She'll talk about some issues that are important in that community. I'll be joined in a few minutes, as I always am, by our Deputy County Executive, Ken Jenkins, and he will take responsibility for announcing some of the interesting steps that we've made in terms of a poet laureate, youth poet laureate here in Westchester County. And we have some representatives from the Youth Bureau with us here, including our Commissioner, Dr. Damien Harris-Madden. We also have an update coming from our Westchester County Airport leadership, April Kaspari, who's our airport manager, and Robert Duffy, who's with Transportation Administration, TSA. And there's a new procedure at the airport that we think will be very helpful for passengers that come to the airport. So we'll cover those things all together. Let me begin the report today by congratulating David Imamura, a resident of Irvington, who was elected a week ago to the Westchester County Board of Legislators. He fills the vacancy that was created by Mary Jane Shimsky when she was elected to the New York State Assembly last November. And so Mary Jane resigned her county legislative seat, which triggered a special election. That election was held last Tuesday. Now, the election results haven't been certified, but since David was unopposed, we're reasonably sure that he won. And with that, we expect he'll have an inauguration coming up. I think it's on the 19th of the month, March 19th, and he'll begin his service as a county legislator. He is completing Mary Jane Shimsky's term, which will expire in December of this year. And then all 17 county legislators, David included, will be running this year for a 2-year term that will begin January 1st of next year and last for 2 years until the end of 2025. But we congratulate David Imamura, and he is the first Asian American to be elected to the County Board of Legislators. We have a diverse group of individuals, African Americans and Hispanic Americans, and of course people of all different backgrounds and religions. And we're very happy to have David and his skill set. He is an experienced lawyer, works with the law firm of Abrams Fensterman, and he will be contributing greatly to the deliberations of the Board of Legislators. So congratulations to him. We have a sad note to start on. We think it's important to mention this event happened a couple of weeks ago, but we want to extend our sympathy as part of our governmental responsibilities to the friends and family of Dylan Lyons. Dylan Lyons was the news reporter for Spectrum who was killed in Central Florida while covering a story. He is a Philadelphia native, made Central Florida his home, and he went to college there and then, of course, began his career in the media. And a very young man at the time of this murder. He was doing the things that he loved the most, which was anchoring and reporting the news. And those of us who are involved in government interact with those in the media all the time. We are constantly questioned. We have interactions. Those who are following this now from the media will take excerpts of this as part of the news report. I'm very happy to have members of my communications team, Catherine Chaffee, Carolyn Fortino, who are former members of the media and had high-profile on-air jobs as well. And most people don't think much about the people reporting the news, and you certainly don't think that they're going to be in danger. We know that we have first responders, police officers, firefighters, EMS workers, hospital workers who put themselves in the heart of danger when civilians move away from danger. But we forget those in the media, in the Fourth Estate, whose job it is to portray that information to the public so that you have public information. We, those of us in public office, often clash with members of the media. We may not like the coverage we get. We're usually right, they're usually wrong. But most of the time, there's a great degree of respect that goes back and forth because it is a hard job to be in the media and certainly to be in an on-air situation as Dylan Lyons was. He was shot and killed while working the scene of a homicide investigation in Pine Hills in Florida. A 9-year-old girl was killed in a separate but related shooting in Orange County, Florida, and Dylan was reporting on that when the alleged perpetrator of that murder then was in the area nearby where he was doing his taping with his cameraman, shot and killed Dylan and shot and injured the cameraman. So it was a horrific set of circumstances. So we extend our sympathies to Dylan Lyons. We also extend our appreciation, and you should too, to all of the people who are out there in the media who cover these things. They work awful hours. And we see that whenever a storm comes in, you'll see reporters on the side of the storm. Any other person is sheltered from the storm, but they're out there covering that incident. They cover all sorts of difficult stories, and so we extend our appreciation to the brotherhood and the sisterhood of those who cover the news in memory of Dylan Lyons, who lost his life doing that very same thing. To our municipal guest, Jane Eney has been a friend of mine for a long time. She started her public career as a member of the Larchmont Village Board of Trustees, and she went on to become a member of the Mamaroneck Town Council for a number of years, serving as deputy supervisor under her predecessor, former supervisor Nancy Seligson. This past 2021, she was elected supervisor for a 2-year term, and now is in the role of prime leadership for the town. The town has approximately 30,000 people, a little less than that, and it involves all of the village of Larchmont, the larger portion of the village of Mamaroneck, and then a section of Mamaroneck Town, which is unincorporated. And the unincorporated section gets basic services from the town. So it's an interesting management to be a town supervisor where you have villages. This occurs in Greenburgh and Mount Pleasant, a few other places, but Mamaroneck is unique in that it has a portion of one village and all of another village, and yet all of this gets managed, and frankly gets managed very well. The Mamaroneck Town government gets some of the highest marks from rating agencies and from those who observe how government operates. So we're very happy to have her with us here to share whatever she wants to tell us about the town of Mamaroneck, the Honorable Jane Elkind Eney. Madam Supervisor, the microphone is yours. Thanks for coming. It's a pleasure to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, George. Well, I survived my first year as supervisor, and so did the town. The biggest project we were working on this year is a comprehensive plan update, and what that is a blueprint or a vision for the future of the town. What does the town want to be when it grows up? And this is based on resident input, and that is critical. So we spent the last year getting as many residents involved as we could, which isn't always easy, but we had workshops, pop-up work sessions at public events, public meetings, we had an online survey, and from that we culled a lot of information, and then our comprehensive plan consultants at Pace University School of Law synthesized all of the information and created a framework or a skeleton for the comprehensive plan. And then we went back out to the public again to make sure that they basically got it right and that we got it right. And so we had more work sessions and more online surveys. And now we're at the point where our consultants are actually writing the plan, and we hope to have it, maybe at the end of March or the beginning of April. On the grant side, we are always looking for grant funding so that we can save taxpayers money for the many things that we have to accomplish in the town. And I'm happy to report that one of the most exciting and biggest grants that we got this year is from our county government. And that was a $300,000 grant to study flooding. Now, the town of Mamaroneck is very, very prone to flooding, as you residents know. And we identified 15 areas of the town that are particularly prone to flooding. And we felt that, and our engineers felt that it wasn't appropriate to fix these places piecemeal, because since we don't know how they're all connected underground, we don't know if we fix one place here, if we're doing harm to another place there. So we thought that the best practice would be to do a comprehensive plan of all of the underground storm system. So I was able to call our county government and get a $300,000 grant, and this grant is full of firsts. It's the first time that we'll ever study in the town the whole underground stormwater system comprehensively, and it's also the first time we ever got a grant just to do a study. Usually you have to have the study done and have a shovel-ready project to get any government funding. So I was happy to work with the county government and have them be so flexible and accommodating to our very serious needs. Another thing that I worked on a lot this year is communication. We in the town feel it's really important to be engaged with our residents, to hear what they want and what they don't want, and for them to hear what we're doing, and have that back and forth kind of partnership. So toward that, we launched a new website, and the website is much more user-friendly. Even I can use it, and it has so much more information than the old website had. I also worked on our monthly e-newsletters and enhancing them, beefing them up. And one of the positive results is that our subscriptions are up 25%, which I'm very proud of. And then to further make them accessible, we now post them on all the local Facebook pages so that more and more of our residents know what's going on. And finally, we instituted a monthly e-calendar that I send out on the first of every month that has every meeting, every board, commission, every event, everything that's going on in the town in one concise e-newsletter. So I'm going to make my usual plea, which is please, please, please go on the town website, www.townofamaraneckny.org, and sign up. You can get notices, news, and most important, emergency alerts, which, is the only way we can really reach you in a bad, storm situation. We also continue to work on our infrastructure. For those of you who drive up the Weaver Street corridor, Route 125, as the night follows the day, your call always dropped. And since we put in a new cell tower now, you can actually have a whole conversation up Weaver Street, which I think is the thing I could do the most to make residents happy. And that, because it's been going on forever. We also, in 2018, did a sanitary sewer evaluation study with 3 other municipalities in a consortium. And as a result of that study, there were certain deficiencies found and repairs that needed to be made. And I'm happy to report that in 2022, we finished all the required and recommended repairs, and we were the only community in the consortium to do so. The town continues to be a leader in the environmental theater. The town board themselves has gone in whole hog on this, and we now do not have paper news packets with all our meeting information. We all get everything electronically, so we save a lot of paper that way. We were certified a climate smart community this year. We were actually recertified. Back in 2016, we were the 9th community in the entire state of New York to be certified a climate smart community, and it's only a 5-year certification. So this year we recertified, and at the time we recertified, we were the only community in all of New York State to receive that certification for a second time. Our finances remain excellent. We just got another Moody's rating, and we maintained our AAA rating. And on the safety front, we, the town fire department and ambulance district, service I-95. So in order for the vehicles, let's say there's an incident on the northbound side of I-95. The vehicles can only enter on the southbound side, and then they have to cut across 3 lanes of traffic to get to the turnaround to respond to an incident on the northbound side. And we're enabled to encourage the state, through the help of Shelley Mayer, Steve Otis, and myself and the fire department, to get them to move that down south, so now our emergency vehicles can cross safely to respond to incidents. So what are we looking at in 2023? On the recreation side, we're renovating Memorial Park. We're working with Fields for Kids, a private group, to improve the fields behind the Hommocks Middle School. We're looking at enhancing our pool area. On the environmental side, we're enacting a tree law to restrict people's ability to cut down trees and require them to replant trees so that we preserve our tree canopy. And on housing, which is near and dear to my heart, we're looking for opportunities for affordable housing and just housing opportunities in general to serve the housing crisis as we now see it. So all of this doesn't just happen. I'm happy to say it's not me alone. We have an incredible, dedicated staff led by our town administrator, Meredith Robson. We have great partnerships with the county, with the state. They're always responsive to us, and I really do feel we work together for the benefit of the residents. So I'm really looking forward to working with everyone in 2023 to keep Mamaroneck moving forward. So thank you.
Thanks very much, Jane.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Good to
Great
see
to
you.
see you, my friend. That's Town Supervisor Jane Elkind-Heaney from the town of Mamaroneck. And when you're in the village of Larchmont or the village of Mamaroneck, you are also at the same time in the town of Mamaroneck. A lot of great restaurants, a lot of great places to go and view art. and a lot of festivals coming up that will give you a chance to go into Mamaroneck and enjoy the time. And when we get to the summer, we'll let you know about the summer concert series. That's part of Mamaroneck Towns. So we're going to change the topic to something that's been our focus now for 3 years. And you may recall that it was this week, 3 years ago, that the first case of coronavirus was tracked here in Westchester County. In some ways, it's hard to believe it's 3 years. In some ways, it seems like it's been 10 years because we have been so focused and organized around the impact of COVID. And what happened in the first few months after COVID, what happened to our society, basically got shut down. Things were completely off kilter. And in various levels of phases, they've started to come back to normal, or whatever the new normal looks like. There are some things that have changed forever because of COVID, and then some things that have been improved. I don't think anybody knew what Zoom was to any great extent before COVID came along, and now we have a mechanism that we're comfortable using for certain types of meetings that can connect people from a distance and not require them to travel to do it face-to-face under certain circumstances. We've lost just one person shy of 3,000 individuals in Westchester County over the course of these 3 years. The bulk of the individuals that we lost, well more than half, 65% of the fatalities that occurred over these 3 years, happened within the first year before vaccinations came along. Since vaccinations have come along, we've seen a dramatic drop in the fatality rate. There have been fatalities, primarily amongst those of advanced age that contracted COVID, those that have underlying health diseases, and those that were unvaccinated throughout the course of this time. We've seen about 85% of our population vaccinated. Now we have different numbers of shots that people have gotten. The bivalent booster shot was the most recent shot that became prominent in the fall of last year. And the doctors will give us whatever medical advice they give us about how frequently we need to be vaccinated to maintain our antibodies, which is what the vaccination does. It doesn't kill the disease directly. It motivates our antibodies to fight off the invader when it happens. And almost all of us now have gotten COVID at some point in time, and many of us more than one time. How seriously ill we got depended on individual situations. We all have stories of people who were very ill and some who had hardly any impact at all. And of course, there are people who are called long haulers in COVID who are still dealing with the effects, having gotten over COVID but not fully over it over this period of time. We've learned a lot about the disease, and then there's still a lot that scientific knowledge has not given to us. We have, as a county government, tracked the results of COVID every day. I have a little black book that I carry around. Friends of mine, people here in the office see me have it with me at all times. And in it, I track daily information over the course of a week about the number of people that have tested positive for COVID out of the total number of tested. So we have an infection rate, which if 100 people are tested and 90 test positive, then that's a 90% infection rate. If only 9 test positive, that's a 9% rate. And within there, that tells you something about what's happening with the disease. We track the number of active cases. That's how many people who have coronavirus that were tested positive within the last 10 days, and they haven't gone through the full 10-day period of time, so they can't say that they're past the disease until they reach that period of time. Those number of active cases and the hospitalizations, the people who are hospitalized, are the ones who have active cases that are in the most severe situation. And obviously, we track the fatalities. And just to put some of these 3 years into perspective, we've seen an ebb and flow that has followed the seasonality of the year. In the wintertime, the situation gets higher, usually starts somewhere in the holiday season in the late fall, and then it starts to diminish in the first part of the year. And we're watching it rise later and diminish sooner over the course of this past winter than it did in the 2 prior years that we've had. Where we are today, tracking the events of Sunday, yesterday, March 5th, the 3rd anniversary, we have 576 active cases of coronavirus, and we have under 75 cases of people who are hospitalized. That is a very small number. To put it into perspective, where we were 2 years ago, we were just beginning the vaccination process 2 years ago. On the same day 2 years ago, we had 6,000 active cases. 6,000 active cases compared to 576 active cases today. The amount of people that were hospitalized, today we've had under 75. At that point in time, we had 284 individuals 2 years ago. and the fatality percentage of total deaths was 1.9% of all of the people that contracted COVID in that first year suffered fatality. Now, spread out over 3 years, that number has dropped a full percentage point. It is 0.9% of all the people that have contracted COVID that have suffered fatality. So clearly, progress has been made statistically in the way this disease has hit us. We went through a period of time where this report began with a daily report of what was happening on COVID, and we included some other information as to what was happening overall in the county. And then, of course, we've cut back from a daily report to a couple of times a week, and now we have a weekly report, and we talk about things other than COVID, unless there's something specific to say about COVID. We have had vaccination locations and centers throughout the course of the county, and Westchester did a very extensive job of making vaccinations available from a public health standpoint, and now, of course, all of the other elements in the medical community have made vaccinations much more easy to get. You can get them at the pharmacy, you can get them at the medical offices or at the hospitals as well. And testing has become much more widespread, home testing as well as PCR testing. We've had them available through our various health clinics, and we have now reopened our health clinic in Yonkers as well as the one that we have that has been open all throughout in White Plains. But then the home testing had become, if you recall, around the holiday season 1 year ago, very hard to get home testing. People were on long lines to get PCR testing, couldn't find any other testing. Now testing is plentiful, and people will routinely test themselves 2 and 3 and 4 times before they go to some type of event or activity just to make sure they're COVID-free. There are some groups that will meet, and they'll require you to show proof of a negative test on COVID before you can attend the event. That number of events are limited, but whatever they are, they exist, and the easy accessibility of testing becomes now an important part of how we manage COVID going forward. The numbers have dropped dramatically, and so as I have kept these pages around, I've kept them around day after day after day. My staff watches me play with these numbers in the same way that I dealt with the daily numbers in my corporate career of revenue and all the things that I was responsible for. But literally and figuratively, I closed the book on COVID with today's reality. We are 3 years into this, and I think we understand that we are going to have COVID with us forever. COVID as a disease is there. We will never get to 0 active cases. We will never get to 0 hospitalizations. We deal with the flu every year. We have a flu season. We vaccinate ourselves in anticipation of the flu season. We have a certain number of cases of the flu, and the vast majority of those people recuperate and go back out and have healthy lives. There are people who we do lose to flu every year, and there are other diseases that fall into the same category. So it is not an attitude that says COVID doesn't exist, that it's no longer there, it's no longer something of concern. But it is now going to cease to be the organizing reality around which we make our lives. The concerns that we had in the peak of it were well placed. We had fatality numbers that were striking. If I go back to 2020 on these sheets, it's still hard for me to imagine what we faced when we dealt with these things. In April of 2020, we had 315 deaths in Westchester County on the night of Wednesday, April 8th. In one night, 315 people died to COVID. The very next night, we had an additional number of deaths that happened one after the other, and it accumulated very quickly, and it was very striking. We did not have nights like that every night, but we had them in that first couple of months. We're well past that now. And we hope that in closing the book on COVID, we are now going to manage our lives in an effective way, to manage our lives in a way that is smart, that we take the precautions we need to take. We know if we need to mask ourselves because of our own personal health circumstances, we wear masks to reduce the likelihood of infection. Nothing makes you securely protected in every possible way, but it reduces the likelihood of it. That we did what our parents told us when we were little kids about washing our hands all the time, but we're more mindful that washing our hands is the proper thing to do, not merely for COVID, but for a variety of other things, and that we do that regularly, and we have access to hand sanitizing to do that on a regular enough basis so we don't pick up any of the germs that are out there. We owe a debt of gratitude, and at some point in time we'll have the opportunity to recognize them. Our public health professionals in Westchester County, in the government of Westchester County and outside of the government of Westchester County, that helped us every step of the way. They gave us advice, and they too had to deal with the shifting sands of information that we received from different levels of government, from the CDC and from those who were analyzing these issues. And things changed. We had variants hit us, the Delta variant, the Omicron variant, that were treatable in different ways, and they caused a greater outbreak of the disease, and in some cases a greater impact of that outbreak. But we hope that now today, as we've reached the third year, we complete this experience. It's an experience that none of us will ever forget. Some of the folks who are in the room with us today are very young people. They will live long, productive lives in the years to come. And somebody will ask them when they are in their 60s, what was it like back in the 20s when COVID came? Much the way that I would talk to my grandparents about the influenza outbreak that occurred in the late teens of the last century, 1919. Grandma was around when that happened, and she would tell me the stories of that. And now, at some point in time, you will be, I can't believe it yet, but you'll be the grandparents that will tell your grandchildren about what happened during the COVID era. And if there is a message through all of this, and it's not over yet, but if there's a message through all of this, is that rational people in a free society making rational decisions can face anything. My parents' generation faced a Great Depression and faced a world war. Every generation faces certain tests. We have gone through this testing, and I think we've come through with a good, solid response. And those of us who performed this rationally, we didn't mandate things, but we didn't ignore things. We didn't treat something seriously as if it was just a flight of fancy, because it wasn't a flight of fancy. But at the same time, we still went on it. We went forward and we did things as well as we could. And I'm very proud of my friends here in this community, in this county. I'm very appreciative of my executive team that as we sat and tried to work our way through these things, we were able to come up with what we thought were practical issues and ideas. We dealt with the school system when they perhaps weren't getting all the advice that they needed to get from the higher levels, and we practically worked through those things. And with every decision, every meeting we had, those things we put on a virtual platform. We tried to figure a new way to communicate to people using the virtual platform. All of these things are a sign that we as rational people have worked through this. We're going to be talking in a second about the Westchester County Airport. The airport shut down, functionally shut down over that period of time. And under other circumstances, that might have cost us a whole industry. Certainly the hotel industry was impacted dramatically by this. But again, the message is we Americans have gotten through this. We may see a variant in the future. We may see something that will bring this back up to attention. If it does happen, we will respond, and we will reestablish our communications link. But we take some comfort in the fact that we're in a very good place today, and we hope that in closing the book on COVID for today, we don't have to reopen the book. Let's hope we go forward and address the other issues that we have in our society and in our county, and we do it effectively. Let me mention that in the next couple of weeks, we are going to introduce to you an existing board that has been around for a long, long time. It's been established by county law, and that is our Westchester County Police Advisory Board. There's much discussion about the possibility of bringing in a civilian review board concept. Some of the municipalities in Westchester County have established it. Some look to the county to establish one that they can be a part of. Members of the Board of Legislators are working on legislation along these lines. It's a very complex matter, and it involves lots of different realities that have to be brought into account before any proposal comes out for public discussion. But it is important to note that we have an existing police advisory board. It's chaired by Leroy Frazier, who was a co-chair of our police reform task force. And in a few weeks, we're going to bring in the members. We're going to introduce them to you so that you get a chance to see who they are. It's a diverse group of individuals. They have some responsibility to interact with the community, and we're going to follow up with a series of sessions in local communities where the police advisory board can meet informally with residents to talk through ideas about where we go, because it was also in that spring of 2020 that we had the death of George Floyd and what that did within our society. At the same time, as we make the changes that we have to make to perform better in that area, we also have the responsibility to look at what we've done to try to reduce crime. And Westchester County still has a lower crime rate today than we had 5 years ago today. But we see that there are certain things happening in the society beyond just our own borders that we have to address. So we have a very interesting challenge, and I accept that challenge and this responsibility, as we all do as citizens. And I'll introduce the Police Advisory Board to you coming up a couple weeks from now. And hopefully, if you have the time, bandwidth, you'll tune into that. Next, I want to invite a couple of folks who have joined us here who are involved in the Westchester County Airport. I assume most everybody in Westchester County knows that the county owns an airport that has both a commercial side and a general aviation side to it. Those of us who might travel as part of the general traveling public and operate on various set flights will be familiar with the terminal and the public side of this, the commercial side of this. We may not know how much is going on the other side of the airport, which is the general aviation, the small planes, the planes that are owned by corporations or by organizations that make them available on a charter basis. But the people that do know these things is our Westchester County Airport Manager, April Gaspari, and also with us today, Robert Duffy, who is Transportation Security Administration. They're both senior executives, and they're here to talk about a TSA pre-check enrollment process that should make it easier for the travelers who work through our airport. But I will let the professionals explain this to you, so I welcome April Gaspari and Robert Duffy to the microphone. April, thank you for being with us. Robert, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I want to thank you both on camera for your professionalism in so many of these issues that have dealt with the airport that have been very difficult. So please, let us know what we need to know.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, County Executive. We are excited to facilitate this TSA program for individuals who qualify, and we thank county's leadership, and I specifically credit Joan McDonald, the county's Director of Operations, for the idea. As both a traveler and an airport employee, I appreciate the TSA's risk-based approach to security and screening, knowing that these individuals in the pre-check program have had the previous background checks as they go through the expedited screening. And please know that when you register or enroll at Westchester County Airport, being enrolled gets you through pre-check lanes anywhere in the U.S. that an airport offers the pre-check screening lanes. We've had a healthy passenger throughput in 2022 and currently. Every day we have between 3,500 to 4,000 passengers. So the pre-check option really helps to reduce the logistics of not having to divest and then recompose your laptops and your 311 liquids and your shoes. And I'll let the Federal Security Director list all of the rest of them. But this is a good customer amenity that is compliant with security and will improve your travel journey through the airport. And since we do have a healthy passenger throughput, I do encourage any travelers through our airport to arrive at least 2 hours in advance of your airline's reported departure time, just to make sure you're not harried at all and your travel journey is pleasurable. Since the press release last Wednesday on March 1st, we have 300 appointments for the pre-check enrollment, and that makes it a full schedule. So we still have availability for walk-ins. Please try the website and then also try the walk-ins. The event will be Monday, March 27th through Friday, March 31st, and the hours are 9 a.m. through noon and 1 p.m. through 5 p.m. The location of the office is run by IDEMIA, who is the TSA's contractor running the background checks. They will be in the arrivals area of the terminal near the baggage carousel, but we will have wayfinding as well for you. And as you sign up, know that when you come to the airport, we will have wayfinding for you where to park as well. It will be in a designated surface area of lot immediately after the passenger terminal as you travel in that one-way direction. I am pleased to be followed by the TSA's Federal Security Director, and we look forward to seeing you in the week of March 27th.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much, April, and County Executive Latimer. Thank you very much for inviting me here today on this great news day. As April said, the pre-check enrollment will be the last week of the month. However, we're already taking reservations for it. You can make those reservations over the internet on tsa.gov, and just follow the pre-check link. It's all self-explanatory, self-directed. It takes less than 10 minutes. They'll ask you some rudimentary questions, and then you have to come to the airport on the date that you're given. And we do encourage you to do it in advance, because if you have to go on the day of, you may have to wait. So by going in advance, we know that you're coming and we can be prepared for you. And what that will afford you to do by getting into pre-check is good for 5 years. The cost is $78, which is actually down from the original price of $85 when we began this program 10 years ago. We now have nationally 15 million people. We just hit the 15 million mark just within the last 10 days. So it's really good if you travel and you don't want to wait in those long lines. This is the way to go. And we expect the industry to be much busier this year than we were the last several years. As County Executive Latimer said, once the pandemic hit in 2020, that really devastated the aviation industry. We're starting to come back, and 2023 looks really robust. So with a lot more people feeling comfortable getting out and flying again and traveling, which is great, we want you to come out and save time standing in line by going through the pre-check process. And what this will afford you to do is when you come in, you're going to be given, once you register, what's known as a KTM, or known traveler number. And you'll get that within usually 3 to 5 days after you go through the registration process. We vet you, and you'll get the KTM, or the known traveler number. And that will afford you to give that number whenever you're making reservations, or whether you do it on an airline website or any of the travel entities that are online, or if you go through a travel agent. You give them where you want to go and that KTN, and they'll put you in a pre-check. And what that will afford you to do is when you get to the airport, you do not have to take off a lightweight outer coat or jacket, sweater, for example. You can leave your belt on if you wear a belt. Shoes can stay on. And as April said, the 311 liquids, those small travel-sized liquids, can stay in your bag, as can all electronics. So phones, tablets, laptop computers, for example, all stay in the bag. You're going through an expedited system, which will move you through a lot quicker than the typical standard screening lanes that you're used to seeing. And with such a busy season coming up and expected, especially once we get to the summer season, it's going to save you a lot of time and the frustration that goes with standing in long lines. And so, therefore, we really encourage you to get onto that. And again, it's the last week, the 27th to the 31st of March, as April said. But if you get onto the website for TSA first at tsa.gov, that will afford you to save a lot of time by just showing up, by doing a lot of the preliminary information that we need to get from you ahead of time. And then all you'll need to do on site is to verify your information. Then IDEMIA will need to take a photograph of you, and you also need to take fingerprints. So that's why we need to have you here. Now, once you've been in it, the program is good for 5 years. You can renew online. You don't have to come in every time you go up for renewal. And that will afford you to also save money, because then it's $70 for 5 years versus $78 initial fee now. Right, so we encourage you to get into that. Thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. That's Robert Duffy, Transportation Security Administration, TSA as it's known, responsible to help keep us all safe as we use the airlines, and April Gaspari, who is our manager of operations there at the Westchester County Airport. And this is an important announcement that this is going to be available now in Westchester County at our airport. Back in my corporate days, which precede my being fully involved in government, I've traveled a lot. I was National Director of Sales for a company, and I was constantly on airplanes going one place to another, pre-9/11 days. And to go through the rigor of that in this time is an extensive effort, time, and the frustrations that go through having to make sure that you're secure. But it's a necessary requirement if we're going to be safe in the skies. We know that there are people of bad intent who will try to use their moment to make a statement with those of us who are civilians in the sky. And of course, Mr. Duffy and that team at TSA tries to keep us safe, but this will help us speed the plow. And we have so many people in Westchester County who are frequent travelers for one reason or another. Maybe leisure travel, it's more likely business travel. And in that kind of a world, it's very helpful. So we thank you very much for this initiative. There's more information that'll be available, and you can certainly contact us on our website at westchestergov.com to try to get a good idea of what is happening there. A couple of things more. It's a long report, but we've got a lot of stuff to share. Ken Jenkins, Deputy County Executive, is going to be joining me now. And we don't want to mention that we're beginning a series of unclaimed funds sessions. This ties into State Controller Tom DiNapoli, who manages the unclaimed funds for New York State. These are funds that need to be returned to an individual in New York for one reason or another. It may be a deposit you left on an apartment for your utility costs. It may be a tax check that was supposed to be sent back to you, never made it to you. It could be for any number of different sources and reasons. And the reason why you never got it, you might have moved, they might have gotten the name of the street wrong, they might have gotten your name wrong, but whatever it is, there is a registry that has all of these things documented. And for some people, those who may not have access to a computer, may not be comfortable with a computer, we want to make an outreach effort systematically. So along with members of the Westchester County Board of Legislators, we are working together to hold a series of these unclaimed funds sessions around Westchester County. We have one coming up this Thursday, March the 9th at 12:30 at the Scotty Community Center on Bronx River Road in Yonkers. County Legislator David Tubiello and myself will be there for that program, and we have some scheduled. I know we have one in Rye Brook coming up a little later this month and elsewhere around the county. This is not a scam. If you go on to the website yourself, you can do this on your own, OSC, Office of State Controller.state.ny, and then /OUF, Office Unclaimed Funds. You'll see the registry there, and you can enter your name, and you can search and download or file online if you'd like. But for those people that don't have the comfort to do that, these sessions are scheduled so you can come, and with the help of those of us that know the system, we'll help you identify whether or not you have some money that's unclaimed. My experience has been very circumstantially. I haven't done this as a statistical calculation. Roughly 1 out of every 4 people that we check the registry for either has some money coming back to them or somebody close to them, an immediate relative. So it's worth checking out. You can do it right now if you want. You don't have to wait for the session on Thursday, but we're going to do them around the county, and we hope that will be a productive use of time. It's money that's owed to you. The money comes back to you. It's money in your pocket. Why wouldn't you want to check it out? Makes logical sense. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Ken Jenkins and Dr. Damia Harris-Madden. We have a Youth Poet Laureate program, and we have our 2 youth poets who are with us here. Poet Laureates are with us here, and I want Ken and Damia to lay out this program, have them come up here, join us. I believe they have some of their original poetry to share with us. We're very proud of the talents of these young people, and we want to recognize them as part of this. So, Ken Jenkins, Damia Harris-Madden. Thank you.
Thanks, George. This is such an exciting day for all of us, especially to have our 2 Youth Bureau Poet Laureates to be with us here this afternoon, and to be able to read a particular poem. And we're really proud to introduce the county's 2 new Youth Poet Laureates, Alexa Murphy from Sleepy Hollow, who's in grade 11, and Harmony Hopwood of New Rochelle, who's in grade 9. They were selected after an extensive search by the team at the Westchester County Youth Bureau, and here to describe that process is the Executive Director, Dr. Damia Harris-Madden. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy County Executive. And I'd just like to say a huge congratulations to our new Youth Poet Laureates. This program is so special to us here in Westchester County, as we were the first this administration to introduce such a program in 2019. We had a young lady who is now at the University of Pennsylvania. Her name is Danielle Kahn, who actually sent an email to both the county executive and myself suggesting that we have this program, and looking at the amazing works of Amanda Gorman, who presented at the White House, and other adults who were poet laureates throughout Westchester County. Danielle thought it befitting of this administration to introduce this, and we are so thankful that she did. We appreciate both the county executive and the deputy county executive for supporting the Westchester County Youth Bureau and allowing us to introduce this. We did have an outpouring of young people who applied, and the cream has risen to the top who are here today. I'd be remiss if I did not thank Susan Weissman from our office, who has been here and supporting the Youth Poet Laureate program, as well as Barbara, also known as BK Fisher, who was the Westchester County Poet Laureate, who sifted through many of the applications. This program is really integral to what we are doing within the Youth Bureau, as we are working within a equity lens. We are also looking to ensure that our young people are supported, as the county executive mentioned, which I was not going to discuss, but I'm really encouraged to mention, what has happened to our young people in terms of mental health throughout the pandemic. And poetry is most certainly a positive way to express oneself. It is a method of coping. So many have grieved, so many have been disconnected from school and from their friends. And so using poetry as a vehicle is really important for our young people. And they've expressed it by applying, by inquiring. We are celebrating both Alexa and Harmony because you sit in the intersection of artistic excellence and civic engagement. You are using your words to make sure that everyone understands and hears the voice of young people, so we appreciate that. And finally, I really look forward to working with the both of you. As we know, April is National Poetry Month, and so we have some plans for you. We have wonderful libraries, amazing schools here in Westchester County, and again, like Amanda Gorman, like Elisa Gaines, like Mira, we just want you to rise, and we want to continue to support you and the other artists that are throughout Westchester County. So at this time, we'd like to call you both up. We know you created an original piece for us today, so I'm going to start with Alexa.
Hi, I'm Alexa, and just before I start, I'd like to say thank you so much to the County Executive, Mr. Latimer, to everyone at the Youth Bureau, Dr. Harris Madden, Susan Weissman, who's just been so wonderful, and also BK Fisher, who has inspired me for so long, and Harmony. I'm so excited to continue to work for you throughout this, work with you throughout this process. And this is a poem I'm going to read about youth and what it's like to be a young person. And lastly, I'm just so humbled and honored to be here speaking before all of you. So thanks. This is called For the Sake of Poetry. I wish, for the sake of poetry, that I could make my youth make sense to you. I wish I could dissolve my Decembers, snow suspended, midair, air freezing cheeks and molding them, face breaking like ice, thawing to reveal softness underneath. There's a smile that is still so new. I wish I could remind you, for the sake of poetry, what it's like to still be so new, to still be surprised as Januaries continually fall under you, and to miss people you have just met, and to like boys and girls and realize that too often like is love, and realize that you love too much. You try to list your loves in diaries with locks on the front cover. Things I love. Ice cream, tall trees, wind when it is hot, even still when it is cold, because wind pricks skin kindly. Things I love. Long car rides, short train rides, being in between places and being there. And there is a pit in my stomach that is reserved for the thought of growing old, being both filled and expanded for every passing year. There's a home in my heart that is reserved for going to bed early to conjure my tomorrow too soon, and staying up late to prolong my todays. My internal clock is set 10 years too fast and 6 years too slow, and cannot figure out how to count down numbers, so really it's just two hands spinning wildly all the time, and I can never tell the time. Everything is either in terms of shocking newness or antiquity. Everything is forever falling apart and putting itself back together. I am falling apart and glitter gluing myself back together. I wish, for the sake of poetry, I could illustrate for you every color I see in the sunset reflected off the Hudson. And I wish I could understand every illustration of every Hudson and every river and every sunset. For the sake of poetry, I wish and I write and I love and I'm new. That's it.
Alexa, stand. So first, let's give some background for Alexa. Alexa Murphy is an 11th grader at the Master School in Sleepy Hollow, where she's a member of the school's spoken word poetry group, Outspoken. Murphy first joined the group in her sophomore year, and the experience helped her discover her deep passion for the art. Murphy is also a writer for her school's newspaper, Tower, is captain of the school's debate team, and debates on a national level with the USA Development Team. In her position as Youth Poet Laureate, Murphy says she will do all she can to serve her county and return a portion of all it's given her. So again, congratulations. We certainly have a certificate of recognition for you. And then stand up here while we have Dr. Damian Harris-Madden introduce Harmony. So come back.
Congratulations, dear. Thanks. And welcome. Now we have Harmony Hopwood of New Rochelle, who is a 9th grader, and she's going to introduce herself.
Hi, thank you. Before I read my poem, I would just like to thank the county executive, Mr. Latimer, the Youth Bureau Director, Dr. Harris-Madden, Susan Wiseman, who's been very, very helpful throughout this entire process, and Alexa. Like you said, I'm very excited to begin working with you. I wrote a poem in honor of Women's History Month to just show appreciation to all of the excellent women who got me to where I am today. And it is called Her Brilliance. My heart was built from potential. There are flowers budding from my arteries and light streaming out with the blood that it pumps. And it's no miracle. It's handcrafted, commissioned by the women before me who tended and nurtured to it and who watched me grow. The women who defined being difficult, who were made to disrupt and be heard, who laughed too loud and speak their mind, the women who wept tears of anguish and turned them into a fuel to create. My grandmothers paved the way, instilling the necessity for education in my lineage of hard workers, and I now know that there is excellence coursing through my veins. My mother turned bad days into reason for car karaoke, storms into adventures, and created a world of wonder for me to reside in. I never wondered what was past the horizon, and I never felt that there was a world beyond my grasp. I lived in between pages riddled with fresh ink, created art that she praised from the front door to the pages that filled our walls. I was given an opportunity. I was given a safe space for authenticity and taught by the women before me to stand in my truth, as that is no threat to those who matter. I was equipped with my grandmother's hands and my mother's brilliance. A line of visionaries, healers, creators, and success stories, I strive to be no different. And complacency is not permissible. With such inspiration, there is no such thing as unattainable. I'm a collage of all their flaws and strengths, my grandmother's smile and my mother's mind. We are stubborn and proficient, freckled and fractured.
And Harmony is a 9th grader at New Rochelle High School who has been interested in creative writing in her entire life. She's always enjoyed creating stories, poetry, and art. Hopwood says it has helped her create a window of expression for those around her, and Hopwood's goals have always been surrounded by wanting to represent excellence and create change in any way she can. In her new role as Youth Poet Laureate, Hopwood would like to provide diversity in her preferred fields and create more opportunities within her community for people like her. So we also want to make sure to provide a certificate of recognition to you as well, Harmony. Congratulations. And let's give it up for our outstanding Youth Poet Laureates again. We have our county executive is going to come back with us and to be able to wrap up us up this evening. If you could just sit back down for a minute, and we will absolutely have up. This is so exciting to watch our youth take these things, but even more important that you can't see, that we get to see, is the families and support systems of the families with their big smiles as well in recognition of the outstanding work our youth have done. So with that, turn it back to the county executive.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Dr. Harris-Madden, for your leadership on this. And Alexa, Harmony, congratulations. We expect wonderful things as the years go by from both of you. And we're very proud of you. And I know your parents and family and friends are proud of you as well. So congratulations. I'm just going to wrap up with a couple of announcements for some events. First of all, for all of you who are into golf And like using one of the 6 Westchester County golf courses, your long wait since New Year's Day is over. We intend to reopen the golf courses, weather permitting, on Wednesday, March 15th. We have 6 public golf courses in Westchester. 2 of them are on the Sound Shore: Maplemore Golf Course in White Plains, Saxon Woods Golf Course in Scarsdale. We have 2 up in northern Westchester: the Hudson Hills Course in Ossining and Mohansick Golf Course in Yorktown. And then we have 2 in the city of Yonkers: Dunwoody and Sprain Lake. Those golf courses are expected to open up again on Wednesday, March 15th, weather permitting, and they'll stay open until New Year's Day again. We need to rest them a little bit, and we know we've got a good contingent of golfers. We've had, pretty much due to the pandemic, a tremendous result on these courses the last few years, and we think they're going to be very busy again this year, and they're ready for your usage on the 15th. Coming up a little sooner than that, this Friday, March 10th, at the Cranberry Lake Preserve in the town of North Castle, it's North White Plains, they will have the after-school nature hour. It's good for children 1st through 9th grades. They'll participate in a variety of nature activities and studies. They'll learn a little bit about hiking, how to keep a journal, and play certain games. That's coming up Friday, March 10th, this week. And then on Saturday, March 11th, at the Trailside Nature Museum, that's up in the northern part of the county, the Morning Migration Watch, you'll have a chance, now that we're into spring, or almost into spring, to bird watch, as many different species can be observed, and it should be a lot of fun as well. Both of those activities are coming up this weekend at our parks. We have many other things going on, and do remember that between now and when we see you next, you'll be turning the clocks forward, which means it's going to be lighter when work is over at the end of the day, or certainly when school is over. That's good. Be a little darker in the morning again, but as we approach the springtime and then into the summer, we'll start to gain back light at both ends of the day, and hopefully that'll make it a very good spring ahead for all of us. So I want to thank all of our guests who are here today: Jane L. Kindini, Town Supervisor; our leadership at the airport, April Gaspari, Robert Duffy, and of course the Youth Poet Laureates that are with us, Alexa and Harmony both, and their family and friends. Very diverse sets of issues that we're dealing with here in the county, but we're trying our very best to go forward. I want to highlight that 2 weeks from tomorrow will be Village Election Day in those villages that have March elections. They include communities like Bronxville, Portchester, Sleepy Hollow. There's a number of others that will have elections on that day. It seems like you never get that far from local elections, but villages are the local government in those areas, and their mayors and whoever's ever up for election, and each community is a bit different, justices, trustees, they will make decisions for their community. So mark that on your calendar, 2 weeks from tomorrow. We will be back here, God willing, next Monday to give you an update on some issues. We have other things that we want to tell you about, and we'll save it for that time. But in the meantime, thank you for watching. If you have any questions, you can certainly go on our website, westchestergov.com. You can give us a call here in our executive chamber at 914-995-2900. You can call members of the Board of Legislators at 914-995-2800, and we look forward to being helpful to you in any questions you may have. I'm George Latimer, Westchester County Executive. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful and safe week ahead.